Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the farm. Beautiful morning here this morning, but a bit of a mixed emotion day for me today. Recently in our local newspaper, there was an article, front page news unfortunately, that our local grocery store is feeling the impact of supply chain shortages. And why is that a mixed emotion thing? Well, it's twofold. It's mixed emotions simply because, it's really sad to see the impact that has here on our local community. But I'm also glad that it's finally starting to click. Not just here, not just on the farm, but to the individual consumer, that they're now aware of it in mainstream media sources. So hopefully we can kind of gain some traction on this to get some people shortening their supply chain a little bit and maybe doing a little bit more direct consumer to farm purchasing and cutting out some of the middlemen that have really left us stranded throughout this whole pandemic. So today being Tuesday, today is the day here on the farm that we colloquially refer to as grocery day. So Monday evening is the day that we can go to the grocery store and collect any product that is essentially destined for the landfill from the supermarket that otherwise would just go there and rot, and we're able to acquire and use as an alternate stream in terms of animal feed. So we've got some meat products we use for dog food. I've got some bakery products you can use for chicken food, things like that. And so I've done a couple of videos on this. One specifically called "Why is Meat So Expensive?" I'll leave the link to that one down below. It's a 10-12 minute video talking about specifically this type of thing. And then my friend Robert and I actually did a 2.5 hour special exploring food waste in the entire food industry and the impact to the economy, the impact to the environment, as well as the impact to the individual animals just the other day. And I'll leave the link to that one as well. It's a bit of a longer watch, but you know what, if you get some popcorn, hot chocolate, sit down, spend an evening, there's a lot of really good facts and data in that interview. And it's just a frank discussion about what are the facts about how the food industry impacts those things. And then I thought, okay, well, how do I then narrow that down to specifically, like, what does it look like? What does it look like in terms of what happens locally, what's lost economically, what is the impact to our local environment, and then what is the impact to the animals that producers like myself work tirelessly to raise to get to a consumer. That's the intent, right? We work tirelessly to raise an animal humanely to get it to a consumer, and then we find it in products like this, little styrofoam trays on their way to the landfill. Now, the only way I can quantify this is with the price tag, right? So that's what I wanted to do today. Was I have a Rubbermaid tote here, and this specifically holds the meat products that and this is only maybe a quarter of the meat products that get discarded from a single source locally here. And I just want to quantify that from a dollar amount so that you could see why it is that I'm so concerned about this economically, environmentally, and in terms of animal welfare. So we'll start off with honey ham. So honey ham, this one right here, $21.47 in the garbage. Another honey ham, $19.05, going to the garbage. Another honey ham, $19.18, going to the garbage. None of this stuff, of course, is actually going to the garbage. It's frozen. We're gonna be able to store it here on the farm, feed it to the dogs, the cats. That's the whole point of this, is that we have basically intercepted this on its way from being a waste stream to now being able to put back in and be useful as it was intended, right? Chicken breast, $4.77. Chicken breast, $5.50. Pork side ribs, $7.24. Pork side ribs, $11.28. More pork ribs, $9.28. Boneless sirloin cubes, $6.98. Pork loin center chops, $31.67. Chicken breast strips, $5.26. Chicken breast, $4.53. Chicken breast, $4.97. Chicken breast, $5.24. Oh, now we're gonna get into good stuff here. Minute steak, $8.25. Minute steak, $7.50. Outside round steak, $4.80. Minute steak, mechanically tenderized. Ooh, that sounds like fun. $13.06. Stewing beef, boneless, $10.39. Right, very small package, pretty expensive. Minute steak, $6.70. Minute steak, $13.53. Beef shank, $10.37. So I'm gonna run all that back through the calculator. I'm gonna let you know what the total on all that is. Oh, and you know what? Not to be forgotten, not one, but 2 rotisserie chickens. This one here, 13 bucks. Yeah, 13 bucks for rotisserie chicken. We got 2 of them as well. So I'll add them to the tally. I'll be back in a second to tell you what all of this adds up to. Okay, so the numbers are in, tally's all up. What do you think it's worth? 1 tote, just like this. Any guesses? I'll tell you right now. And even $257 exactly in this tote right here of waste meat, discarded meat. And like I said, this is only probably around a quarter of what leaves this single source here locally. Now, as you know, from within your own communities, there's never such thing as a single source. Chances are there's multiple grocery stores, multiple grocery chains throughout your area. And this also is basically only one product. This is just the meat waste. This doesn't include the dairy, this doesn't include the produce, and this doesn't include the baked goods as well, which we do have some of the baked goods here. I'm gonna add those up too and give you some numbers on what we get there. But again, we're only getting maybe about a quarter of actually what's gonna be heading to the landfill if we didn't intervene. So you can see pretty quickly why this is concerning. So as a producer, if I were to sell this much meat, what would I get? I'd probably get around 50 bucks, to be honest with you. About 50 bucks, right? Now, in the grocery store, this hits, it's $257. Let's round it up to, you know, a good 260, just for argument's sake. And so where does all this money go? Does it go to the grocery store? Certainly not, because the grocery store is putting it in a big blue bin and away it goes down the road. They're not getting it. But you can see packaging, processing, all that, you know, the cutting, the wrapping, that's where it all ties up, is in the packing plants, the food processing industry, the food packaging, and the food distribution side of the industry. And largely, that's where, you know, food distribution, they lose a ton of, they generate an incredible amount of waste just because simply things aren't transported properly or they're not stored properly. And so there's an awful lot that gets discarded with good reason because of food safety, of course, right? But if we were just a little bit more careful with some of those things, then maybe, you know, we could save a lot of this stuff getting discarded before it even hits the grocery store. So then the other concern is, okay, well, what does this equate to? If this equates to, you know, a quarter of the waste, well, overall meat waste here in Canada attributes to 20%, right? So 20% of all the meat that hits the grocery store is gonna go in the garbage. Now, there's a portion of that that goes in the garbage from your home, of course. And you can see why that's concerning. I mean, people over-purchase. They go to the grocery store when they're hungry and then they buy what they want. And then when they look in the fridge, they oh, what do I feel like tonight? Instead of looking in the fridge and be like, oh, what needs to be cooked tonight, right? So we need to change our mindset there in terms of how we purchase food, how we acquire food, how we feed our families. And largely, you know, things like this, ready-made meal. I mean, this rotisserie chicken, $13 as a producer. You know, I can sell a pasture-raised chicken right here off the farm. I can't touch 13 bucks. right? So the cost versus convenience thing for the consumer, it's a tough argument to have. But in reality, I mean, they're doing it by volume, right? So it's very damaging for the environment because all of this product, this isn't just gonna decompose nicely and turn into compost and flowers are gonna grow in a meadow where this stuff goes. No, this stuff all goes to a landfill where it's capped with clay, it's held in an anaerobic state, and what comes out of the landfill? Massive, massive amounts of methane. Methane attributes actually 26 times more damaging to the environment than carbon dioxide. So the fact that we're sending all this stuff, the fact that it's even hitting the landfill is concerning, but what happens when it hits the landfill is even more concerning. But anyways, that's my little tear about meat. I'm gonna unload the baked goods next, which again, we only get about a quarter of them, but we'll do a quick tally here and see what kind of stuff and what kind of dollar figure is going out the door. Okay, so I got my next tote with all the bakery goods in here. Let's have a look and see what we're looking at. Fruit strudels, $4.69. Bagels, $4.19. Hamburger buns, $2.79. Bagels, $4.19. Bagels, $4.19. Ooh, more strudels, $4.69. More strudels, $4.69. Cheese buns, $6.29. That's a pricey item. Hamburger buns, $3.69. Cinnamon bread, $4.69. What are these called? Crumpets, $2.99. More crumpets, $2.99. Loaf of bread, $4.19. Cheese bagels, $4.19. Submarine buns, $4.49. Bagels, $4.19. More bagels, $4.19. And last but not least, some apple strudel for $5.79. So let's work all that through backwards again. We're gonna get a tally on that stuff and see how much that's really eating the lunch right out of our wallet. So we've got our tally here now, and any guesses what we got for baked goods? Well, $80.11 exactly for one tote of baked goods. Now that maybe doesn't seem quite as concerning as that tote back there, you know, $257 worth of meat. The thing we need to be concerned with is, I mean, this isn't just apple strudels. If you look at everything that's in here, what's the common denominator here? Plastic, packaging, right? Food waste is one thing, right? We have to have food production. We can probably agree upon that. There's going to be a certain amount of losses in the supply chain. We can probably agree upon that. Now, granted, the losses in the supply chain are probably more than what they should be. But the concern is that because of the length of the supply chain and because of the consumer demand for fresh, never frozen, you know, that kind of product, what we end up doing, and this has been the case since the 1950s, is we literally wrap everything in plastic, right? So the polyethylene inside, or well, that composes the majority of this plastic container here, does not decompose in the landfill. So the bread, the hams, all that stuff goes to landfill. It gets, you know, housed in an anaerobic environment. Off gas is methane, all while this plastic is doing what? Well, it is slowly breaking down, but it's not decomposing. The polyethylene will become brittle over time. And we're talking, you know, if it's exposed to air and sunlight, you're probably looking at about 10 years. But if it's underneath, you know, if it's basically compressed in a pile, doesn't have access to oxygen, doesn't have access to sunlight, this is gonna break down, and it's gonna take around 1,000 years. 1,000 years. And the thing is it's not even actually decomposing. It's just becoming brittle and forming microplastics, which, I mean, that's a bit of a buzzword, but we all know exactly what microplastics mean. They get into the water stream, they kill our fish, You know, there's no bacteria that can consume this, right? So that becomes a huge environmental problem. So how do we combat this? Well, honestly, the best thing you can do is shorten your supply chain and be conscientious about, you know, the impact of the supply chains that you do have to maintain. So can you grow your own garden? Sure, absolutely. Is there going to be times a year when, you know what, the garden's maybe a little bit less practical? I mean, we live in Northern Alberta in Canada, so 6 months of the year, the garden's pretty much, I mean, it's largely off the books for us. But we're able to grow protein in the wintertime, right? Lamb, pork, chicken, beef, all of this stuff we can grow during the winter months. And the vegetables and the fruit and all that stuff we can do during the summertime. What's the other thing you can do? Okay, well, so we're producing all this meat over the course of the wintertime. If you're looking at that and say, well, I certainly can't, you know, if I live in town or whatever, and I can't have a cow in my backyard, surely not. No, but instead of going to the IGA or the co-op or the Safeway or the superstore, wherever it is, and buying meat that's shipped from goodness knows where in the world, you know, many cases not from Canada, let alone from the province or even the region, right? I could just go up the road to a local producer and have him make an arrangement with the producer, a local butcher, do up a cut sheet, fill my freezer with locally grown, humanely raised, or largely organic, right? Fresh meat, and keep it in the freezer. And yeah, okay, there's a bit of a carbon impact with keeping the freezers running like that, but I tell you, it's not 1,000 years of microplastics. Well, you know what? I actually just found one more bag of buns. So it's not $80.11. It's actually $84.30. Doesn't change the meaning of the math. It's still a big problem, of course. But anyways, I just got off the phone. This has changed. I'm totally changing the subject here, so bear with me. I just got off the phone with the guy from Integrity Post Frame Solutions. They're the folks that built the shell of this building right here, our shop. And they are coming to build our barn. The whole purpose with the barn is so that we can lamb earlier in the year, have better butcher weights in the fall, be able to market our lambs locally, get better, instead of having to ship them off the market at, you know, undue times. So that all has an environmental impact on what we do here on the farm as well. There's a little bit of a glitch in the matrix though. We were scheduled actually end of January, beginning of February, right where we're at right now, to be having this barn get started. And well, whether it's the pandemic or whether it's the labor shortage, all of these things, what have you, supply chain demand, all this thing came together and said, you know what, you're not getting your barn on time. So the guy phoned here tonight. We'd already talked once before. I knew it was going to be late, but he phoned here tonight and said, we're looking at 4th or 5th of March. Well, my wife has a hard date, March 7th, for C-section at the hospital in Grand Prairie for our baby to be born. And so that's getting down to a very, very narrow window of time. So we'll probably be able to get the guys started, and then that way we go to the hospital for a few days. And when we come back, we'll either have a brand new, well, the shell of a barn, or the very, very close to a completed shell of a barn. So that's exciting, but I mean, it's mildly inconvenient, but hey, this is what we get dealt. This is what we have to deal with, and we'll just roll with the punches. Anyways, for now, I hope you found this video helpful. If you didn't find it helpful, hopefully you found it alerting. Maybe it was a wake-up call. Maybe you know somebody that needs to hear this message. So like, share, subscribe, you know, all that jazz, right? I'm going to leave links in the description for our Why is Meat So Expensive video, as well as the 2.5-hour live session that we did with our friends over at Bloom Family Farm. I'll leave all those links in the bottom. And, you know, for your viewing pleasure, of course. But for now, I've got some more food waste to sort out, a little bit of chores to do, and some tea to drink. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.